The quiet atmosphere. Tumultuous sounds suddenly shatter the silence. Hey, what is that? The flow of time gradually reverses to 10 years ago. To the day the entire world was shaken by a cataclysmic event. Suddenly, a mysterious silhouette of a strange object appeared in the skies above Tokyo. Right before the eyes of hundreds of citizens, the inverted castle officially appeared. Simultaneously, dungeons surged forth, appearing all across Japan. The presence of dungeons spread from one place to another like an ominous invitation. And humans at that time were no exception. They awakened magical powers, as if blessed by the heavens. Special, gifted individuals known as mages challenged the dungeons, gaining both fortune and fame. Notably, a mage's power was evaluated by the color of their mana. Usually, a person would only show an aptitude for a single mana color, but rarely. There were those who possessed two mana colors. For example, Rei's younger brother, Kurosaki Kai, possessed two mana colors, blue and red. Before him now stood a towering monster, radiating a thick, murderous aura. However, he didn't show a hint of fear. Instead, a strange excitement flickered in his eyes. Seeing its prey standing motionless, the giant demon seized the opportunity to launch a surprise attack. Kai didn't let it dream on for another second, directly summoning a superior weapon, the magic spear. In just a few ticks, it was sent flying as if it were a mere grain of sand. The terrifying power from the spear made the monster roar in agony. Finally, it vanished into nothingness, leaving behind only an aftershock that shook the heavens and earth. Kai slowly bent down to pick up the spoils he had just collected. In contrast to the brutal scene that had just unfolded, Rei remained in a state of dazed despair. Seeing this, Kai couldn't help but feel annoyed, throwing a painful blow at his brother's head. Hey, you good for nothing. His cold demeanor was no different from that of a bloodthirsty demon. Pick it up. Kai was truly one of the strongest mages, a Violet King. Meanwhile, his own flesh and blood was completely different. His older brother, Rei, was a talentless nobody, a completely colorless person, extremely rare in this world. Even though the truth was so cruel, he never gave up his dream of becoming a mage, just smiling faintly and getting up when humiliated by others. That was why he worked as a porter, following his younger brother every day, responsible for collecting the loot. Out of Kai's pity, Rei was lucky enough to be on his team. He always clung to the naive thought that someday he would awaken a skill, believing in that glimmer of hope. Before them now was a magnificent gate, like a key opening a mysterious palace. Oki carefully observed the surroundings. This is the boss room. Go-to, next to him, was more relaxed than ever. At this rate, fighting the boss will be easy. Suddenly, a soft creak was heard, revealing a hazy scene behind the massive gate. Kai's party slowly advanced deeper into the room, everyone's eyes scanning to assess the battle situation. In the silent space of the room, a tall figure was gradually emerging from the shadows. Detecting that strange creatures had entered its territory, Kronos slowly turned his head to assess these fearless fools. Kai couldn't help but sneer mockingly. Doesn't look like much. As soon as he finished his sentence, he used his superior strength to launch himself towards the target. He let out a powerful roar and charged straight at the man to attack. Magic strike. Ignoring that he was being targeted, the man casually pulled his ultimate weapon from thin air. In a flash, the cold steel of his sword tore through the air, shattering the ice fragments Kai had unleashed. Kronos' face remained unusually calm, his deep eyes seemingly holding countless deep secrets. Witnessing the lightning-fast exchange, Kai's eyes widened in astonishment. What? Suddenly, the man's crimson eyes flashed with killing intent, his golden pupils activating an ability aimed straight at his prey's vital point. Realizing his life was in danger, Kai's face turned pale as he gritted his teeth. A horrifying cracking sound echoed as his head was instantly severed from his neck, plunging the entire scene into a crimson tide of blood. Both Oki and Goto couldn't believe their eyes. They simultaneously turned their heads away from the horrific sight. Watching his younger brother get logged out, Rei's entire body froze. His handsome face, hidden behind his long hair, was now deathly pale, like a chronically ill person on the verge of death. Kai's muscular body crashed to the floor, leaving behind a deafening silence. The fear inside Rei grew with each passing second. He only dared to glance at the one who caused all this. Impossible. He couldn't help but freeze when he saw the terrifying power of the person before him. The Violet King, Kai, defeated in an instant. As soon as they regained their senses, Oki and Goto used all their strength to escape the danger. That thing is a monster. He'll kill us. Desperate cries rang out continuously. Run. But they were all silenced with the light flick of Kronos' hand. He coldly gifted the unruly ones a one-way ticket to the underworld. Witnessing his teammates fall one by one right before his eyes, Rei couldn't keep his composure and collapsed onto the floor. Kronos carefully assessed the small figure trembling on the ground. You. Suddenly, he burst into laughter, filled with a strange excitement. He calmly made his judgment, completely colorless, aren't you? The small hand clenched into a fist, as if that careless remark had struck a nerve in Rei. He still hadn't achieved anything. He had never even managed to do the smallest things. Perhaps that's why the weak figure stood up once again, tightly gripping the sword in his hand. Despite his body trembling uncontrollably from shock, Ray bravely faced the problem head-on. I don't want to die yet. Kronos was so excited that he revealed his true nature. How interesting. A colorless being like you dares to confront me. Just hearing that powerful voice, Ray's whole body trembled uncontrollably. But that heart of steel was determined to fight to the end. I can't give up here. Recognizing the admirable spirit of his opponent, Kronos had to offer a word of praise. Very good. With that, he flashed a cunning smile and announced, I shall test you. As soon as he finished speaking, Ray's perfectly intact arm was suddenly severed from his body in just a few short seconds. The pain was so intense he cried out, feeling the numbness invade every cell. A heaven-shattering scream echoed, driving the harsh reality of the situation into the listener's mind. Kronos feigned innocence. Oh my, I might have overdone it a bit. Finally, he decided to snap his fingers and turn back time. Rewind. Everything instantly reversed, returning the space to its starting point, and Ray's body was completely whole, as if no wound had ever existed. Ray's face was drained of blood as he frantically checked his body's condition. It's healed. Without giving his opponent a moment to recover, Kronos immediately summoned immense power. Now then, he couldn't help but panic as he was surrounded by the flames of death. A hair-raising, threatening voice echoed in his ear. This time, I'll give you time to think. The beast roared a warning while simultaneously unleashing his technique, Hellfire, the flame of despair. Kronos became more and more excited by the game he had created. What will you do? But Ray was no longer as weak as before. He carefully reconsidered his moves. A half-hearted attack won't work, but if I use the sword he created. No sooner said than done. He rushed towards the sword lying alone on the floor. With his own courage, Ray tightly gripped his opponent's sword, heading straight into the heart of the sea of fire. The cold sound of metal scraping against the ground echoed with a screech, making the atmosphere even more terrifying. He exhausted all his strength, rushing forward headlong, pushing the speed and abilities he was born with to their absolute limits. Despite his feet being deformed by burns, he still risked his life running towards the target. The fierce flame scorched Ray's face, destroying his features and forcing him to scream in despair. Kronos was frozen solid, seemingly unable to process what was happening right before his eyes. He burst out laughing contemptuously, unable to believe the stupidity of this tiny human. Suddenly, a horrifying scene unfolded, causing his eyes to widen in shock. It was unclear when, but Ray had passed through the sea of fire, using his opponent's own sword to plunge it into the beast's heart. He smiled faintly, satisfied that his plan had succeeded. I did it. Even though his body was exhausted to the point of collapse, he was ecstatic to have surpassed himself. I stabbed him. But instead of being afraid of the sudden attack, Kronos revealed an amused smile as if he had struck gold. Rewind. The moment that command was heard, the look on Ray's face instantly vanished, replaced by terror. He helplessly looked up at the space that had once again returned to its original state. Kronos enthusiastically offered his praise to the small creature. What an interesting show. The sword in his hand slipped from his control, falling powerlessly to the floor with a thud. Ray was so exhausted he collapsed onto the cold ground. My attack became meaningless. His eyes seemed to have lost all hope for life. Could it be? Am I? The frantic voices tore through his mind. Am I going to die like this? Suddenly, in the final moment of despair, a strange object appeared before him. Making Ray's eyes widen, a notification confirmed the presence of the god of time and space, making him doubt his own thoughts. Black. A skill. From beginning to end, Kronos just quietly watched the erratic display of his emotions, an overwhelming suspicion unconsciously rising within him. The system quickly activated a sub-skill, giving the player a chance to steal another skill in a hair's breadth moment. As soon as the skill application notification sounded, Ray's eyes lit up as if he had met his savior. Only then did Kronos realize the situation before him, his face showing extreme confusion. Could it be? Wasting no more time, Ray shouted powerfully, Rewind. As soon as the words ended, a fierce aura burst forth, enveloping him in a suffocating pressure. Kronos realized that the human brat had stolen his skill. He immediately roared in fury. You bastard! As soon as the signal was activated, the system quickly initiated the endless cycle of time. The lights in the room flickered continuously, like a signal announcing that a life had just been reborn. Ray struggled to sit up, trying to gather his thoughts to sort everything out. He tried to recall what had just happened. I desperately used his rewind skill, but carrying an extreme sense of bewilderment, he unconsciously turned to look at the mirror hanging beside him. What on earth happened? His handsome face showed clear confusion. This is me when I was younger. He bewilderingly tried to remember what had just happened. His face turned pale from exhaustion. Is this rain? Suddenly, the rustling sound of birds outside drew his attention, like an invitation causing him to look towards the window. Witnessing the magnificent scene outside, Ray couldn't help but feel a sense of doubt. The inverted castle is still white, He stared in amazement at the large object floating in midair. Yesterday, it was as black as ink. The time when the inverted castle was still white was about 7 years ago, but it had gradually been tainted black by the cruel vortex of creation. It wore a cloak of murky black, as if hiding countless deep mysteries within. And when that inverted castle turned completely black, that door would officially open. Inside that door is the god of time and space, a name that makes anyone who hears it tremble in fear. Suddenly, Ray remembered something important, and his eyes widened. That's right. The unforgettable memories were still etched in his heart. In the battle with him, I stole rewind. An intuition told him to quickly check the situation. It can't be. The moment the time displayed on his phone screen, Ray let out a heavy sigh of resignation. Just as I thought. He cautiously observed his physical condition in the mirror. This is 7 years ago. I've returned to the past. Suddenly remembering he had forgotten something, he quickly summoned the system. Skill window. Ray slowly observed each piece of information on the screen. The rewind skill is gone. It became a constantly flashing state as if inviting him, making him unconsciously look towards it. But his sparkling eyes lit up with surprise, containing dazzling rays of hope. Skill steal is still there. He couldn't help but recall his miserable situation from before. For 10 long years, I didn't have any skills. Ray's heart suddenly clenched when he recalled that painful memory. If I had this skill then. After a while, he finally began to calm down. His eyebrows suddenly furrowed. I see. It wasn't until he saw the appointment reminder for the ability evaluation that he realized the problem. Today is that day. In Chiyoda Ward, right in front of Tokyo Station, is the Mage Association headquarters, the national agency overseeing mages who conquer dungeons. A familiar figure slowly entered, his footsteps echoing in the vast space of the building. Out of habit, Ray glanced around to assess the quality of the place. It looked so new, right? It's 7 years ago. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. Hey, Colorless. What are you doing here? Oki and Goto at this time weren't any more likable, still maintaining their usual arrogant demeanor. Ray quietly swallowed, praying for the trouble to pass quickly. These guys are my little brother's lackeys. Goto came closer and put his arm around his shoulder like a close friend. Don't tell me you're planning to retake the Mage test. Oki next to him couldn't help but snicker. A colorless person can try as many times as they want. It's useless. That's right. This wasn't the first time Ray took the Mage test. Unable to completely give up on his dream, he kept taking the test even though he knew it was hopeless. The sounds of failure still haunt him to this day. Finally, he decided to boldly brush it all aside. Leave me alone. Watching him walk away, Goto was furious. What's with that attitude? Oki's frustration was no better. How dare a colorless nobody ignore us? Meanwhile, Vina was intently checking lines of data, carefully verifying the information of the candidates about to take the Mage exam. She suddenly saw a familiar figure and frowned in dissatisfaction. You again? She let out a heavy sigh. Even if this is just a test, you could get killed for real one day. You know that, right? In contrast, Ray always wore a bright smile. It'll be fine this time. Hearing that, Vina quickly announced the start of the assessment. Time for the test. You don't need me to explain the details again, do you? He nodded gently in reply, while his eyes were fixed on the dungeon gate. Finally, he decisively entered the test site with a clear mission. Collect 3 magic stones from goblins. To pass, he carefully considered everything. Normally, for someone who has awakened a skill, this isn't hard. Suddenly, Ray's expression became extremely tense as he sensed danger. However, he gritted his teeth and thought to himself, today. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed continuously, leaving giant, distinct footprints on the ground. He still remembered that shocking day vividly. An event that happened in the future. The appearance of a monster. That shouldn't have been in a level 1 dungeon. As soon as he saw the red cap aggressively approaching, Ray couldn't help but sigh. Just as I thought. In contrast to his calm state, Vina was completely bewildered by the unexpected situation. A red cap. Why is something like that here? She quickly drew her sword, ready to fight the monster, not forgetting to turn and warn him. Kurosaki-san, run. Ray let out a soft hiss as he realized the difficult problem. No. The level difference is too great. In the world before his regression, Vina couldn't defeat that thing. Of course, she was still the first to spot the red cap. Vina had taken the initiative to fight it to buy time for Ray to escape. But against the overwhelming level difference, she couldn't hold out for long. After only a short time, Vina collapsed, and was so severely injured that she had to retire. Ray clenched his fist, repeatedly blaming himself. It's all my fault, because I'm talentless and useless. He couldn't help but take all the responsibility upon himself. Vena's career was ruined because of me. Thinking of this, Ray's gaze suddenly changed. But he looked at the red cap rushing towards him. He quickly drew his sword. This time will be different. Ray drew his sword and calculated extremely quickly. This monster has a skill that enhances its physical strength. It's so strong that normal attacks can't touch it. Vina had completed her role as a diversion. Ray waited for the right moment and then leaped in as well. But as soon as he got close, he dealt the red cap a painful blow to the head. Despite his scraped knuckles, he gritted his teeth and maintained his distance. This provocative attitude infuriated the red cap. Its reason was clouded by rage, wanting only to finish Ray in a single blow. But this very action exposed its own weakness. Just then, the system popped up a notification. Ray had successfully stolen the physical enhancement skill from the red cap. After his own physical stats increased, he began to prepare a counterattack. If I steal its skill, Ray infused mana into his sword and then sliced the red cap into two perfectly even halves. He didn't even glance at it, but his words hit the vital point. Then it's just a crude piece of meat. Vina was so shocked she froze. Did he defeat a red cap monster with just one blow? Then, Ray gently absorbed its skill through a stream of black energy that entered his nose. He looked at the hand holding the sword and felt it. As expected, this is a truly amazing power. But she shattered Ray's moment of euphoria. How is that possible? His eyes darted around as he thought, it's better if I don't mention the black skill. Ray looked away evasively. It was just a coincidence. Vina shouted angrily, don't be ridiculous. Suddenly, she stopped, looking serious. That's right, because an irregular monster appeared. The exam will be cancelled. Following Vena's words, he turned to look at the stunned red cap. I have to report this to headquarters. It was true. Now was not the time for irregular monsters to appear. Ray picked up the yellow stone hesitantly. But I need some more magic stones. Vena's voice was extremely urgent. This isn't the time to worry about that. It's dangerous. Suddenly, a green, veiny foot stepped forward. With his sharp reflexes, Ray also noticed it. Seeing two goblins approaching, he was secretly pleased. Perfect timing. They roared fiercely in unison, but they received a clean sword strike from him. Then, the two goblins went to meet their maker together. Vena's eyes widened in surprise once again. Ray held out the spoils in his hands. Can I take these stones? She was stunned for a moment before snapping out of it and shouting, what? At the entrance of the Mage Association headquarters, a woman held out a card with his portrait on it. This is your Mage license. Ray held it in his hand, choked with emotion. He pressed his lips together to move to speak. It had taken Ray so long to get here. He couldn't give up his dream of becoming a mage. For 10 years, Ray was just an ordinary porter. He had even dealt with eccentrics. But now, Ray had finally become a mage. Suddenly, the woman spoke, catching his attention. Also, here are the details regarding the exchange of magic stones. Magic stones drop from monsters. They are a precious energy source that doesn't emit CO2, and moreover, they can be sold to the association. Ray stared intently at the paper, thinking to himself, because I defeated an rank monster, this could be a great deal for me. And then, a figure of exactly 3 million caught his eye. Ray stared for a long time without daring to blink, his eyes about to pop out, then he screamed. 3 million. Vina was also happy for him. Yeah, you defeated a red cap, after all. Ray's whole body went limp and trembled. Mages really earn a lot, she kept encouraging him. If it's you, Ray, you can earn even more. But what he noticed was Vena's bandaged, injured hand. Ray thought for a moment, a hint of pity in his eyes. Then he decided to turn away. Excuse me. I want to ask you something. Ray slowly approached the dungeon gate. His hand reached out and lightly touched it. Indeed, on the gate was written Ray's name, exclusively for Kurosaki Ray, rank C. He quietly admired it. Until now, Ray had never entered a dungeon alone. The image of Vina lying in a hospital bed appeared. Could he really do it? And also the image of her bright smile. Ray looked at his hands, hesitating, not knowing if he could change the future. Suddenly, a large mana hand reached out. It gripped him so tightly he couldn't move. A voice came from behind Ray. What are you doing here? He turned to look at the voice. You. Oki taunted as he cast a spell. A colorless mage like you dares to enter a dungeon alone. That's against the rules, Goto chimed in from the side. But that didn't scare Ray at all. I passed the mage test, so I'm allowed to enter a dungeon alone. Oki sneered. What? Don't make things up. With that, he roughly grabbed his head. Oki laughed mockingly. If it's true, then show me your skill. In his mind, Ray calculated a skill that compresses mana into a physical attribute, mana hand. Supreme physical enhancement alone isn't enough to break free. But when one way didn't work, he came up with another. Ray used his strength to push up on his toes. Instantly, he headbutted Oki in the face, catching him completely off guard. Blood gushed from Oki's nose. Mana hand skill has been stolen. Mana hand skill has been acquired. The power surrounding Ray was so great that he yelled, what the hell? And then a few small blue dots of light appeared, then moved quickly. Ray used it to cast the mana hand spell again. This time, the large arm aimed at Oki to restrain him. This time, he started to get worried. You really awakened a skill. Seeing this, Goto refused to stand by and rushed in to attack. Don't get cocky with just that. He laughed maniacally as he summoned a fireball. Ray was no less impressive, activating his mana with one hand. With just one swing, he made Goto's fireball disappear. Supreme physical enhancement. He was so surprised that he fell backward. This time, it was Ray's turn to counterattack. A punch so powerful it sent Goto flying far away. Oki's eyes no longer held any arrogance. You have physical enhancement too. Looking at Goto lying battered on the floor, his voice stammered. You don't tell me. Oki looked at the colors appearing on Ray's body and guessed. You have the colors. But he received a denial from him, no. A spark of light gradually appeared in Ray's hand. Fireball skill has been stolen. And of course, it appeared in his hand. There's one more color. It was so absurd that Goto had to sit up. A third color. I've never heard of such a thing. At this moment, Ray calmly aimed the fireball forward. Then he shot a blast at him. But luckily he dodged it. At the same time, the mana hand restraining Oki also disappeared. He activated the fireball again threateningly. Want to keep fighting? The two of them stared at each other with wide eyes. But understanding each other's intentions, they both turned tail and ran. We are sincerely sorry. Ray let out a long sigh as if a heavy burden had been lifted. His face showed a hint of worry. If Kai finds out about this, it won't be good. Remembering back then, his face was extremely smug. I was treated. Kai's foot on Ray's head made him feel even more humiliated. Ray bowed and knelt obsequiously like Kai's dog. It wasn't hard for him to imagine his face back then. If he finds out I've awakened a skill, he'll definitely come to crush me. He's already reached level 50. One of the strongest people right now. Plus, Kai isn't the only thing I need to be wary of. Because what Ray was most concerned about right now was something else. Soon, the dungeon will open. He stood before the door, lost in thought for a long time. Then Ray decided to reach out his hand. Right now, I have to level up as much as possible. The door gradually accepted him. Level is the foundation of strength. Inside, Ray walked while pondering his next plan. Leveling up allows me to learn new skills and increase my total mana. He seemed lost in his thoughts. But more importantly, the amount of mana I can control at once will increase. Suddenly, a flame burst out in front, catching Ray's attention. What appeared inside was a level 38 flame mage. He worriedly activated the mana he had just stolen. I can barely create one orb. Immediately, it swung its staff, creating countless fireballs. Ray's eyebrows narrowed. It seemed he had met a formidable opponent. The level difference creates too big of a gap, even with the same skill. On the opposite side, the flame mage launched its fireballs to attack. He had no choice but to use the same move. But Ray's small orbs were swallowed up by the flame mage's fireballs. Then it rushed towards him with momentum, but Ray quickly dodged it. Knowing he was at a disadvantage, he started to use his brain. I can't win in a direct fight. However, if one plan failed, Ray would come up with another. Without hesitating for another moment, he stepped forward and rushed ahead. No matter how high their level is, there's one thing that doesn't change. Seeing the flame mage standing still, Ray saw his chance. After using a skill, its reaction was much slower, which was the golden opportunity for him. They always have an opening. Ray powerfully swung his fist. Even if it's just for 2 seconds, it becomes powerless. And the flame mage took the full force of that blow, causing blood to spurt out. It stumbled backwards, unable to defend itself. Skill stolen, fireball. Ray silently watched the flame mage collapse. Its only attack. The flame mage stood up and raised its staff, preparing to attack. But it suddenly froze because he could do the exact same thing. If I can steal it, then it's no longer a threat. The flame mage was bewildered by the attack. Fireball. A vortex of fire was created, surrounding it. A notification caught Ray's attention. At the same time, he received for level up notifications. Ray frowned and began to calculate. Defeating higher level opponents gives me a large amount of experience, normally. Defeating high level opponents is extremely difficult, but with skill steal, robbing them of their abilities makes it easy. He had now gone from level 8 to level 12. Ray clenched his fist, showing his determination. His gaze was fixed on the dark doorway at the end of the stairs now. I'll grind to level 30. He furiously sent monsters to meet their maker. Level up. Ray even used fireballs to attack. Level up. All the monsters that met him share the same fate. Level up. Ray checked his progress bar. I've been leveling up at an unbelievable speed. But in just a moment, he had reached level 27. But the result wasn't truly satisfying for Ray. As expected, the higher the level, the harder it gets. He pondered thoughtfully. If I want to reach level 30, I have to defeat stronger opponents. As a result, Ray went to the deepest part of the dungeon, the boss room. His eyes lit up with determination. This boss is the perfect opponent for leveling up. Ray resolutely reached out his hand to open it. The door slowly revealed what was behind it. In front of him was a slender monster walking towards him. Each of its steps was slow yet powerful. It was a level 45 skeleton demon, and next to it were level 30 imps. Ray steadfastly focused his power to attack. They are all higher level than me. If I steal their skills, I'll have a chance to win. He rushed forward at the speed of light, and then Ray jumped high to gain momentum. This time, he used his fist to strike, but Ray was blocked by an invisible barrier surrounding the skeleton demon. His eyes widened in utter astonishment. Then Ray retreated far behind before landing on the ground. He gritted his teeth in frustration. So I still can't touch it. It calmly and gradually advanced towards Ray. Because of the mana barrier, I can't activate skill steal. Then the skeleton demon let out a terrifying roar. In a flash, it shot towards him like an arrow. Ray reacted quickly and dodged a blow to break through. In an urgent situation, he began to worry. I have to use it. At this moment, Ray turned his head and saw two imps flying towards him to attack. He calmly thought, right now I don't have that power. But without a moment's hesitation, he launched himself straight at one of the two imps, which was also momentarily surprised. Very quickly, Ray landed an uppercut on the imp's face. The system immediately displayed. Activating skill steal, skill stolen, ice needle. He immediately held out his hand, summoning a surrounding fireball. The imp he had just punched was instantly on high alert. However, he didn't give it a chance to counterattack and used his skill, fireball. Finally, the imp was gradually consumed by the red flames. After destroying this one, he turned his gaze to the imp on the opposite side. He quickly deployed his skill, ice needle. His single strike was like an arrow piercing through its body. After defeating the two imps, he gently landed on the ground. The skeleton demon, seeing that he was unharmed, quickly began a summoning ritual. Ray pondered thoughtfully. That imp will be summoned again immediately. Usually, it's very annoying, but he gripped his sword tightly and flew up at the speed of light, telling himself, for me, this is a good opportunity. Ray didn't hesitate to shout like this and slashed the imp in half. The system announced a level up from 27 to 28. He cheered happily. I can farm experience points now. He glanced at the system panel and thought to himself, if my level increases to this point. The system continued to report mana control capacity has reached the specified value. Skill fusion unlocked. Ray shouted loudly, there it is. The skeleton demon on the opposite side roared fiercely. Ray calmly activated a skill in his palm, ice needle, and fireball. His expression gradually became serious as he shouted in a stern voice, skill fusion. The two skills then merged, creating a whirlwind. Ray immediately launched himself upwards. He bravely spun to face the skeleton demon head-on. He gathered all his strength and threw a whirlwind punch towards it, roaring, flame lance. The skeleton demon sensed the danger and raised its hand to summon a giant shield to protect itself. At this moment, Ray's attack collided violently with its sturdy shield. Suddenly, a few cracks appeared. In an instant, the skeleton demon's shield shattered into many pieces. Ray thought happily, I got through. The system appeared with a reminder, skill stolen, mana barrier. Seizing the opportunity, he angrily punched its head, shouting aggressively, take this. The system added another notification, skill stolen, supreme physical enhancement. He confidently told it, with this blow, all your enhancements are gone. The moment the skeleton demon regained its senses after Ray's shocking blow, it widened its eyes in surprise at what was in front of it. Ray took the opportunity to rush forward. He used flame lance to stab straight into its chest. After that, the skeleton demon gradually burned in Ray's fierce flames, and then a large blue crystal fell out of its body. The system continuously displayed the words level up from level 28 to 33. After the battle, sweat poured down Ray's forehead. He sighed, catching his breath. Skill fusion, combining skills, an advanced technique to create more powerful skills, usually becomes impossible around level 30. He held the crystal in his hand, his mind filled with thoughts. I was wondering if I could use it. Luckily, I succeeded. He let out a big, tired yawn. Suddenly, the system appeared again, attracting Ray's attention. Level requirement met. The number of skills that can be retained through skill steal has increased. Number of skills from 3 to 5. He smiled faintly and muttered, skill steal 2. It's even more convenient now. The next day at the headquarters, Ray slowly placed the blue crystal on the table. Vina exclaimed in alarm, you defeated the skeleton demon. She asked him in shock. And you reached level 33. In just one day. Ray nodded in confusion and replied, I was just lucky. Vina seemed not to believe it and had to ask him again. Leveling up to 30 in just one day. I've never heard of such a thing. He answered awkwardly, well, yeah. Vina explained, at this level, you can unconditionally become a B-rank mage. Suddenly, a sharp voice echoed through the headquarters hall, attracting Ray's attention. Hey, hold on. Kai wore a scornful expression, and he pouted, that dog is B-rank. There must be some mistake. Ray looked behind him and became worried when he realized it was Kai. Vina called his name, Kai-san, however. Kai coldly retorted, he can't use any skills. He's a colorless person, and now he's a B-rank mage. She answered him clearly, no. But Ray-san really did defeat a red cap monster and a skeleton demon. He angrily turned his head and glared at Ray. His eyes suddenly flashed purple. He asked in a low voice, you did it? Without any hesitation, Kai channeled firepower into his fist and launched it straight at Ray. At that moment, the entire hall of the headquarters was filled with smoke, causing everyone around to turn their heads. However, Kai's attack was blocked by the mana shield that Ray had taken from the skeleton demon. He smirked mockingly and said, "That was really dangerous." Vina, seeing the two of them like this, panically shouted, "Kai-san." Kai sneered, "So you've awakened a skill. The rumors are true." Ray's face showed some anxiety as he replied, "That's right." Hearing that, Kai said contemptuously, "But you can only use a few basic skills. Don't get too cocky." He revealed a cunning smile, threatening him, "I'll be watching to see what tricks you can pull." Vina from the side shouted, "Kai-san, are you planning to fight?" Kai turned to leave, calmly saying, "If this good for nothing is really a B rank mage thanks to his achievements, then it's no problem. But what if all the abilities he used to reach B rank were a lie?" Hearing this, Ray was furious. He clenched his hands into fist, gritting his teeth and thinking to himself, "Even if I refuse him here, I'll just be harassed secretly later." He immediately glared at him, and then he replied boldly, "I understand what you mean." Kai was a little reluctant, showing an angry expression, gritting his teeth and growling, "This bastard." At the training ground of the Mage Association headquarters, Ray considered his moves when fighting a stronger opponent. "I must always be wary of the difference in the amount of mana that can be controlled at once. I can't let my guard down. At my level 30, the maximum combo chain is only 3 basic skills. Since Kai is level 50, his combo chain capacity must be around 5 skills. Needless to say, if I rely only on the number of skills, I'll definitely lose, so I have to close the gap with something. The first blow, Ice Needle." Kai didn't hesitate either. He immediately unleashed his special move, Fireball. Just like that, both of them launched their attacks towards the opponent. Ray's Ice Needle and Kai's Fireball collided, and they created a huge explosion in the middle of the arena. Amidst the thick smoke, Kai cautiously looked around. Suddenly, he noticed something, and his eyes widened. At this moment, Ray appeared out of nowhere, quickly closing in on Kai with his special move, Supreme Physical Enhancement. Kai muttered in astonishment, "A yellow enhancement skill. You have 2 colors." Ray calculated. After the 4th skill, Kai's remaining mana is only enough for 1 more skill. Now is the time. He charged straight at Kai, shouting, "Skill Fusion Flame Lance." Kai looked at his skill before him and muttered, "A skill synthesized from 2 colors, blue and red. You can use skills of 3 colors." However, he laughed strangely and said loudly, "But..." Then he immediately deployed a fireball to push Ray back. In a flash, Ray was sent flying far away. He exclaimed in alarm. A flame lance fused from the skills was defeated by a simple skill like that. Kai stood opposite him, taunting, "So you can use 3 colored skills? No wonder you're so arrogant. However, compared to you, I'm on a completely different level. Flames, dance." As soon as he finished speaking, he launched countless fireballs at him. Ray hurriedly got up and ran to dodge. He reached out his hands, and blue and red whirlwind streams surrounded his hands. He launched a flame lance aimed at Kai's position, but Kai just smirked slyly. He created a fireball in the palm of his hand. Then he used the fireball technique. That one move blew away Ray's flame lance. It shot towards Ray like an arrow, forcing him to summon a mana barrier to block it. Even with the mana barrier, Kai's move was too strong. It shattered his shield in an instant. Standing opposite, Kai smiled arrogantly and triumphantly. Meanwhile, Ray could only mutter curses in frustration. "Damn it." He pointed down, making a demand to Ray. "Bow your head. Do it obediently, and I'll spare you this once. Quickly say, 'I'm sorry for being arrogant.' Say it now." He gritted his teeth, thinking, "I can't beat Kai with my limited number of moves and firepower. I should give up. But am I going to live as his slave again?" "No," he shouted back at him. "I'll never do that." Kai reached out his hand and said calmly, "Is that so? It seems you'll only understand after you die. So be it." Kai spoke in a cold voice. Fireball. The system displayed a notification reminding Ray, "Mana Overdrive consumes a large amount of mana. To temporarily double the amount of mana that can be controlled at once." As he summoned purple fireballs, he said proudly, "This is the power of a king." In a flash, countless orbs like that appeared all over the arena. 10-hit combo, Decade. Ray thought in terror, this is the skill that makes Kai the strongest. He can temporarily use the largest amount of mana at once compared to other kings. However, he shouted loudly, "I was waiting for you to use that skill." As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed forward like a marathon runner. A 10-hit skill combo can only be performed. Then, Ray jumped high and launched himself at his little brother, when Kai uses Mana Overdrive. But, at this moment, Kai looked up and laughed demonically, cursing his brother. "You fool. Do you think you can dodge in midair?" Immediately after, he swung his arm, unleashing a move that created mysterious purple-red sparks towards his brother. Ray, aware of the dangerous situation, had a strange glint in his blue eyes. He gently used Mana Hand to create a bubble around himself to protect his body from the attacks. Kai was annoyed, looking at Ray with hatred. Another new skill. Meanwhile, Ray, while dodging, was thinking to himself, even if it's a 10-hit combo, it's not a problem if I can dodge it. Even for a king, he's limited by cooldown time. He immediately landed majestically on both feet behind Kai. Ray turned to look at his younger brother with angry eyes. In those few short seconds, his legs prepared in a stance to jump forward and attack. A powerful punch straight to Kai's face distorted his features. He was completely unprepared. The younger brother was hit so hard he spat out blood and his jaw was dislocated. The punch was so powerful that it sent Kai flying far from Ray's position. Ray let out a long, tired sigh. A notification appeared. Mana Overdrive skill has been stolen from Kai. He looked on in surprise and felt his body. Now I've stolen his ultimate skill, Mana Overdrive. Kai staggered to his feet in pain and stammered, "You bastard." Ray, seeing the situation was not good, predicted he still wants to fight. Kai looked up with murderous intent in his eyes. "I'll kill you." A shining ice orb was forming with beautiful blue energy. Suddenly, it was gradually consumed and enveloped by a stream of purple-red power. That was the ultimate move, Magic Lance, which Kai was frantically using to attack. Ray's jaw dropped at the sight of the explosion, extremely worried and anxious. The strongest skill among the purple-colored skills. He's learned it already. The ice orb, completely enveloped in that purple light, was gradually advancing and aiming directly at Ray. He quickly dodged to the side, otherwise he'd be instantly killed. So fast. Not stopping there, Kai continued to channel his power to lift to more similar diamond-like orbs. Ray looked up anxiously at the terrifying sight. I managed to land one hit when he let his guard down. Once the Violet King gets serious, he's much stronger than me, Ray observed while continuously dodging. Suddenly, he was cornered without even realizing it. Kai triumphantly raised his hand to show off his power and challenged his brother. I've still been holding back, you know? Seizing the opportunity, Ray launched a flame lance at his opponent. Kai was no pushover and quickly countered with a magic lance. A fierce explosion occurred due to the collision of two overwhelmingly powerful forces. Ray was thrown back against the wall by the aftershock of the explosion in immense pain. He clutched his injured arm and stood unsteadily. Kai casually held out his hands and said in a lecturing tone, "There's a reason I'm called the Violet King. This is proof that I am the strongest." Unwilling to admit it, Ray still bowed his head as if conceding defeat. That's right. Kai's magic lance is one of the strongest skills. He continued to stare with his cold purple eyes and warned, just because you can use many skills, don't get arrogant. Ray suddenly remembered something. He then put his hand on his chest. Indeed, with my current skills, I don't stand a chance against him. Then Ray clenched his fist with determination and resilience. But what if I can find the potential of the purple skill? Ray resolutely clenched his fist and got into a fighting stance, observing the enemy. Until now, I've been limited to merging a maximum of 2 colors due to my mana capacity. Ray once again channeled his power to use Mana Overdrive, even though his body was quite exhausted. Kai was surprised and a bit hesitant to see his brother so strong. Mana Overdrive. How can you? Ray understood the situation and was extremely confident in himself. Now my mana capacity has doubled. If my guess is correct, a notification appeared. Mana capacity has increased due to the effect of activating Mana Overdrive. Black skill fusion has been unlocked. Ray became happy and confident in his judgment. There it is. Kai was worried and startled by his brother's frantic movements. What is he plotting? His mana capacity has increased. Ray opened his palm and summoned purple mana onto his body. He slowly explained and demonstrated. This is a 3-color fusion skill that no one has ever used before. Red skill, blue skill, and yellow skill. They all blended together to form a dark and demonic orb in front of Ray. Kai was surprised and shocked by the strange and powerful force. Black mana. Despite his younger brother's bewilderment and fear, Ray casually summoned his power. The basic mana colors are blue, red, and yellow. I was once told that I wasn't compatible with any of them. But that's not right. I've devoured those mana types, almost reaching the desired state. Ray controlled the power and then confidently shouted while looking at Kai, I am a black mage. Kai hesitated in fear, but still launched a counterattack. Get lost. He saw his brother's ice orb rushing towards him, but remained very calm. Ray focused and stared intently at the ice crystal. He quickly threw the black orb in his hand decisively towards the other black orb. Kai's move being neutralized made him so surprised it was hard to believe. Impossible. Ray continued to summon power, creating another black energy orb. Kai, annoyed as if he had met an obstacle, chanted a spell to create ice. Damn it. The two faced off with their own unique special moves. Ray channeled his power and put his all into the black orb, then unleashed the skill Absol Flame. His special move quickly overwhelmed Kai's hesitant purple ice orb. The ice orb was shattered to pieces, much to Kai's astonishment. A huge explosion occurred right after, shaking the entire building they were fighting in. Ray remained silent and cool behind the hazy smoke. He let out a long, comfortable and relieved sigh, as if a weight had been lifted from his heart. Kai was now lying motionless on the ground, defeated. Exhausted, Ray sat down on the ground, tired. I did it. A notification screen appeared, attracting his attention. Absol Flame's skill has been acquired through Black Skill Fusion. At this moment, Ray recalled the image of himself unleashing the Absol Flame. Suddenly, Vina unexpectedly opened the gate. She quickly ran over and asked Ray in a loud voice, "Are you okay?" Ray gently and unsteadily stood up. "I'm fine." Vina blurted out with great curiosity, "What was that skill?" Ray lowered his head, calculating silently in his mind. "I knew it. I can't keep hiding it in this situation." Suddenly, he held out his hand with powerful forces enveloping his arm. Ray looked at it and observed for a long time. "It's like a black skill." Hearing this, Vina was stunned as if she couldn't believe her ears. "Black? This is the first black skill in the world?" Ray asked again with a very shy face. "Since this is a black skill, do I need to report it to the association? If possible, I prefer to keep the skill a secret." After hearing this, she quickly refused with a strange, awkward expression. "I didn't mean that. I just think you're missing an opportunity." Ray seemed not to understand, so he asked again. "Missing an opportunity?" Vina kindly explained in detail. "The strongest mage of each color is granted the title of king. Simply put, because you are the only black mage in the world, you could be considered the Black King." As she said this, Vena's voice emphasized each word. Ray was surprised and thought for a long time with a sad face. "The Black King?" He quickly forced a naive smile. "I don't really want it right now. Even if I become a king, my level won't skyrocket." By the way, Ray looked towards Kai, who was lying motionless on the ground, and asked with concern, "Is he okay?" Vina closed her eyes, feigning indifference. "He's a king too. Even with such severe injuries, he'll recover quickly. I'll take him to the infirmary now." Suddenly, the phone in Ray's pocket lit up, surprising him. "What's this?" Ray looked at his phone with a horrified and terrified expression. "Warning, a dungeon has appeared at the west gate of Ikebukuro Park. Recommended level 70. Vina also received the notification and couldn't help but wonder aloud, "This is..." Ignoring the question, Ray continued to stare intently and read every word carefully. "It's finally here. The Ikebukuro dungeon. The recommended level is 70, but most kings are only round level 50. In the first week, the kings realized they were completely helpless. As a result, the Ikebukuro dungeon was forgotten. However, that was the beginning of a tragedy. A dungeon collapse. At the present time, that is still a mystery. If a dungeon is not conquered within the specified time, monsters will pour out from the gate. The Ikebukuro dungeon then became the first dungeon outbreak incident. At that time, the city of Tokyo was flooded with monsters and countless people lost their lives. Ray promised himself as his hand tightly gripped the phone, "I won't let that tragedy happen again. I must prevent the dungeon collapse at all cost." Ray suddenly declared, surprising his allies, "I will conquer that dungeon." Vina quickly spoke up to stop him and tried to persuade him, "Even for you, that place is too dangerous, Ray-san. Moreover, only a rank or higher mages are allowed to enter dungeons with a recommended level above 50. After hearing this, Ray fell silent and lowered his head, thinking, "Fortunately, there's still time before the dungeon collapse begins." He asked gently, "The next rank promotion test is in about a week, right?" She nodded innocently. "Yes." After hearing that, Ray sighed and made a decision. "Well then, I will be promoted to a rank in the upcoming test." Vina was startled and extremely surprised. Promoted to a rank. She didn't hesitate to express her opinion. "Of course, with your skills, you can pass the test." He asked Vina with some tension, "Is there a problem?" She broke out in a cold sweat and seriously explained to Ray, "To participate in the A-rank promotion test, you first need to conquer a B-rank dungeon with a team." Now he was sitting dejectedly in the main hall, remembering what Vina had said. In other words, you need to form a team within a week and conquer a B-rank dungeon. Now Ray suddenly remembered something. His hand gently tapped the messaging app on the screen. "Damn, I forgot." As soon as he tapped it, countless sarcastic and contemptuous messages appeared. "Who would want to team up with a colorless guy? Just stick with your little brother." He thought of the scene of other people gathering and gossiping about him, feeling even more dejected. It seems the news that I'm colorless has already spread. Ray began to think about his upcoming plan. "I have to conquer a B-rank dungeon in a week. It will be very difficult with just one mage." But for now, he still couldn't find a solution to this problem. What should I do? Suddenly, a female voice spoke up, startling Ray slightly. "Hey, you." Mayo, on the other side, was using a very arrogant tone to pressure her opponent. "Today, I will definitely make you work." Ray turned his head to look at the noisy area and couldn't help but feel annoyed. "What's going on?" Mayo still couldn't contain her anger. "I let you into the team because I heard you were a two-color mage. But your fire-type skills are so weak, you're completely useless." The girl who had been silent until now suddenly spoke up, cutting her off. "I'm sorry." Ray had no interest in eavesdropping on other people's business and stood up, preparing to leave. I saw something I didn't want to see. He recalled his own miserable appearance from the past, his mood filled with sadness. In the end, I was also seen as a burden. Just then, Ray happened to hear Mayo utter a rather familiar name. To be honest, Ichinos. You're a burden to the team. As expected, as soon as he heard that name, he immediately spun around. She is. Although the weak appearance of the person in front of him was completely different from when Ray met her, he could still recognize her, Ichino's Aya. With Aya's skills, sooner or later, Ichino's would be known as the future Red King. Looking at Aya's appearance, only able to silently listen to others scolding her, but at this time, she is still just a talentless mage. However, there was still something that surprised Ray. Anyway, I never thought she would be abused by her own team like this. Aya rubbed her hands, stammering, if I get kicked out of the team, I won't be able to pay for my sister's medical fees. She was practically begging in desperation. I'll do better next time. Mayo frowned in annoyance but still accepted. Then prove it in today's raid. Otherwise, I'll really kick you out. Receiving Mayo's approval, she immediately and seriously complied with the order. Okay, I'll do my best. Mayo didn't reply, but quickly turned to leave. Alright, let's go. Even though she said that, Ray didn't seem to completely trust Mayo's group. Will they be okay? The sky quickly turned to a twilight hue. As he walked along the road, he remembered the earlier dispute. Ray's expression was extremely serious whenever he thought about Aya's situation. Ichinos will become the Red King in a few years. However, things aren't easy to come by. Before achieving that, she will have to go through many difficulties. And soon, everything will repeat itself just like before. If I remember correctly, she will have an accident around this time. She was seriously injured in the battle with the boss and fell into a coma for several years. Suddenly, he realized something. Wait a minute. Based on his recent analysis, Ray made a guess. Could it be that the accident happens today? Although it wasn't a complete confirmation that it would happen, he always felt uneasy. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling she's not okay. Ray didn't dare to think any further, urging himself on. I have to hurry. Meanwhile, at the mission base for today's raid with Mayo's group, they stepped inside, standing face to face with the dungeon monsters. It swung its blade down hard on the ground. Dullahan, with its massive level, stood tall there, its entire body radiating a powerful murderous aura, threatening the opponent. But Mayo wasn't afraid at all. Her lips curled into a sinister smile. I have an idea. She used her hand to directly push hard on Aya's back. This blow made her stumble forward. Mayo clearly wanted to make things difficult for Aya right here. You fight it alone. Hearing this, Aya's face turned pale with fear. But I can't defeat Dullahan alone. As soon as Mayo saw her about to refuse, she immediately adopted a threatening tone. Then I'll kick you out of the team. Aya didn't know what to do. No. Mayo's face showed clear ridicule, using Aya's only weakness to control her. Then give it your all. You're doing this for your sister, right? She fell silent, not answering immediately, seemingly having made up her mind. Then Aya turned to face Dullahan. I understand. Aya clenched her hands, trying to endure. Mayo's group behind her, on the other hand, was extremely gleeful. Then Aya tried to channel her power, creating a small orb in the palm of her hand. Instantly, she launched that stream of power towards the monster. Fireball. Against an attack that was like a mosquito bite. The dungeon monster Dullahan could still stand firm, completely without a scratch. Aya broke out in a cold sweat, terrified. It has no effect. However, it didn't give her time to think of another way. It immediately stomped its foot on the ground to gain momentum. Then it jumped high, simultaneously swinging its blade high over its head. It brought down a blow right where Aya was. The sudden attack sent her flying, and out of sheer terror, she screamed in fear. Aya sat on the ground, whimpering in pain, not noticing Dullahan's next move. By the time she came to her senses, it was already standing right in front of her. Dullahan raised its blade high, wanting to finish her off immediately. Aya now had no way out. I knew it. She closed her eyes tightly, waiting for death. I'm so useless. In this hair's breadth moment, a young man suddenly rushed in. Supreme physical enhancement. Ray used the sword in his hand to block the opponent's attack. Aya witnessed this scene, her eyes wide with utter astonishment. He was still trying to use his strength to push back the dungeon monster, Dullahan. And then it was knocked far away by Ray. Aya was still sitting there, staring at him with wide eyes, not knowing what to say at this moment. Seeing the strong back of the hero who had just saved her life, I asked softly, who are you? Meeting for the first time, Ray didn't introduce himself. As soon as he pushed back the monster, he turned to ask about Aya's condition. Are you okay? Meanwhile, Mayo's group stood by as if it didn't concern them. It was a while before she grimaced and questioned, who is he? As for Aya, she still hadn't escaped her state of confusion. Dullahan is a pretty tough monster. She stared at Ray's back and thought, and yet he blew it away in just one blow. Mayo, seeing the other party still silent, spoke up again. Who are you? At the same time, Dullahan quickly recovered from the surprise attack. It tensed up, releasing a huge pressure towards Ray. In his heart, he also understood the situation clearly. As expected, that blow wasn't enough. He carefully observed the monster and silently calculated. Dullahan's armor is enhanced with an enhancement skill. Normal attacks can't get through it. He already had a rough plan, so he took the initiative to rush forward. If that's the case, Dullahan, sensing the danger, also swung its sword, ready for battle. But this time, its move was easily read by Ray. I just need to steal that skill and neutralize it. He quickly reached his hand towards Dullahan and unlocked skill steal. But when the icy sensation reached his fingertips, it made Ray pause. A wave of doubt rose within him. It didn't activate. Ray immediately jumped back to maintain a safe distance. Seeing his unfavorable move, I asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Ray gratefully reassured her. "I'm fine. I blocked the blow with my sword." His mind quickly analyzed the situation. I see. Soon enough, Ray also discovered the bug in it. Dullahan's armor is just an outer shell. I have to find a way to attack its true body inside. While he was lost in thought, Dullahan took the opportunity to counterattack immediately. It launched a terrifying stream of magic towards the target in front. Ray, while defending, instructed Aya, "Get behind me." He cleverly used a mana barrier to block this immense pressure. But onlookers like Mayo's group were not so lucky. Apart from her having some ability to stand firm, her companions were all sent flying along with the dirt and rocks. Mayo braced herself and deployed a skill to protect herself. Then she released ice needles and shouted, "You bastard." Dullahan didn't flinch and swung the sword in its hand. It easily slashed Mayo's projectiles into fragments. She didn't expect the thing she was always so proud of to be so weak. While still stunned, she was pushed back by the shockwave with her comrades behind her. The spot where Mayo fell created a world-shaking explosion. Even after being battered and bruised, she still couldn't believe it. My ice needles had no effect. Ray, seeing the opportunity, immediately put away his weapon. In that case, he made a quick calculation and without hesitation, activated his black mana. I need a skill that surpasses Dullahan's enhancement skill to break through. I had quickly recognized the thing in Ray's hand. Black mana. Meanwhile, he was also gradually switching to his Absolve Flame technique. Dullahan didn't expect its opponent to recover so quickly, so its movements were a bit clumsy. But it also sobered up to react extremely quickly. When Dullahan's stream of power was almost there, Ray threw out his skill. A deep abyss gradually expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was like a black hole, continuously swallowing obstacles in its path, including Dullahan. By the time this boss smelled the danger, it had no escape. The black mana power from Ray easily tore Dullahan apart, leaving not even a piece of armor. Its solid outer protection gradually cracked. Finally, everything condensed into a heat wave not unlike an atomic mushroom. Dullahan was thus logged out from existence in the most pathetic way possible. It left behind a green magic stone on the ground and then completely vanished. Aya, who witnessed it from beginning to end, couldn't hide her shocked expression. With just one blow, she fixed her eyes on Ray's back and silently cheered. Amazing. It took a while for Aya to find her voice again. "I'm sorry." She bowed 90 degrees, deeply moved. "Thank you for saving me." Ray politely responded immediately. "I'm glad you're okay." He examined the results in his hand and chuckled to himself. "That's just what I read about. I'm so glad I was able to save Ichinos." Only then did Mayo crawl out from the rubble. She observed the desolate scene and hissed in frustration. What happened? Mayo fixed her eyes on Ray, then bit her finger resentfully. "He's really strong." The problem was, she then gave a very suspicious smile. But Mayo wore a greedy expression with evil calculations in her mind. The reward must be mine. Thinking this, she hurriedly spoke up, interrupting the two. "Wait." Mayo stretched out her hand and calmly ordered. "The reward dropped from a dungeon that we registered to conquer. Give me that magic stone." I was dumbfounded by the other party's audacity. Hey, he's the one who saved us. But surprisingly, Ray easily compromised. "It's fine to give it to you." He used this worthless reward to negotiate. In exchange, I want her to join my team. As expected, this request startled both Aya and Mayo. Ray, ignoring their reactions, continued to speak, of course. He glanced towards Aya to give her the initiative. "Only if you agree." After a moment of silence, Mayo let out a mocking smile. Then she shamelessly clutched her stomach and burst out laughing. "I was worried you'd make a difficult condition." Mayo felt she was getting a great deal and decisively sealed it. "I accept your wish." She placed her hand on Aya's shoulder and asked a redundant question. "Ichinos, do you agree?" She lowered her head, seemingly in deep thought. And it only took a few seconds for Aya to make her decision. "I understand. From now on, I'll be on your team." Mayo was just waiting for that and immediately snatched the magic stone. She turned away abruptly and exclaimed excitedly, "Money, oh money. I can't believe that dead weight sold for such a high price." This comment reached Ray's ears, causing him to frown. Dead weight. There's no way. Just then, Aya took the initiative to step forward and express herself. Hey, thank you for inviting me to the team. However, he still felt apologetic. I'm sorry. I made you leave your team so suddenly. But is this really okay? She lowered her eyes and replied softly. I'll only hold you back. Ray didn't need to think much and immediately denied it. Don't worry about it. He reached out his hand and affirmed with certainty. You will become stronger than those who abandon you. Every word from Ray was like a clap of thunder. I stammered in utter disbelief. I'll become stronger. Ray didn't say anything, but just nodded slightly, his eyes shining with determination as if making a firm promise. Then he slowly recounted. Before coming here, I saw you at the association. I overheard your conversation there. The memory of helplessness and the blunt rejection surfaced, and I could only lower her head to the ground. Noticing her embarrassment, Ray held out his hand with a sincere invitation. Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I think I can help you. Looking at the hand extended towards her, Aya hesitated, not knowing whether to take it or not. She struggled with an intense internal conflict, her hands unconsciously clenching and then relaxing. Aya took a deep breath and decided to extend her hand in acceptance. Okay. Though her eyes still held a hint of doubt, she placed her trust in the person before her. I'll be in your care. Seeing her agree, undisguised joy was in Ray's voice. Yeah. He quickly took Aya's hand, a firm and polite handshake as if to confirm their agreement. I'm counting on your help. The next day, with Aya as a teammate, he went to the dungeon in an excited mood. Now then, let's conquer a B-rank dungeon. Before entering the gate, Aya carefully asked again, if we conquer this dungeon, we can take the rank promotion test, right? Ray gently replied, yes. He suddenly turned his head back, a mysterious smile on his lips. And that's not all. In this dungeon, there's also a key to making you stronger, Ichi knows. Hearing this made her freeze for a moment. She lowered her head to the ground, her hair hiding the complex expression on her face. A key? Aya clenched her fist with determination. When I get stronger and get promoted, I can earn enough money for my sister's hospital bills. Ray's decisive voice pulled her back to reality. All right, let's go. As if empowered, Aya clenched her fist, her eyes showing clear determination as she faced the challenge with Ray. The dungeon gate glowed with a brilliant golden light, both alluring and hiding deadly dangers. The B-rank dungeon, Crystal Cave, opened, welcoming the two of them with a sparkling blue space of countless precious crystals. However, Aya's expression suddenly tensed, her alertness rising to its peak. She frantically pointed towards the deep darkness ahead and shouted, Ray-san, look. From within the darkness, pairs of red eyes were staring at them. It was a pack of large, pure black wolves with sharp teeth. Ray also quickly recognized them as dire wolves. He stepped forward to shield Aya. Leave it to me. She understood and quickly stepped back to a safe distance. Okay. Ray quickly activated his supreme physical enhancement skill. His entire body was enveloped in a brilliant golden light, shooting forward like a flash of lightning. Ray's blade sliced off the head of a dire wolf, causing the others to panic. Without giving them time to run, his blade cut them down one by one. Aya was stunned when she saw that scene. A chill ran down her spine as she involuntarily compared this power with her old team. Even though my previous team with Isoyama was very strong, cold sweat broke out on her forehead as she was shocked to realize a harsh truth. But they absolutely cannot compare to Ray-san. After clearing out the pack of dire wolves, the two continued on their way. Ray didn't forget to repeat the plan. This place is our target. He turned to look at her with eyes full of trust and encouragement. I'll be here to support you. Let's stick to the plan. Aya took a deep breath to calm herself and nodded in response. All right. Standing alone in a wide open space, facing the crystals that were emitting the mana signals of monsters, Aya told herself, defeating many monsters is the strategy to level up quickly. She encouraged herself to push past her limits. Originally, I could only use basic attack skills, but I have to try. Just then, the monsters also rushed towards her. Aya quickly launched a fireball at the monsters, starting her own battle. Ray stood not far away, his sharp eyes following Aya's every move. This is a test for Ichinos. Will she realize her own weapon? Suddenly, the sound of roaring and hurried footsteps echoed from behind Ray. It turned out the explosion from the fireball had attracted all the monsters in the area. Ray turned around, holding his sword firmly, his eyes turning cold. So you're here. I won't let you bother Ichinos. Aya continued to fight hard, unaware of the monster behind her. It took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack on her. The pain hit, making Aya stumble. Her body was nearing its limit after the continuous attacks. No matter how many I defeat, they just keep coming at me. Despair began to creep into her mind. At this rate, I'll run out of mana. Just as she was about to collapse, the clash of metal and the roar of a monster sounded from right behind her. Only then did she realize that Ray was silently protecting her, which made her exclaim in surprise. Ray-san. He continuously swung his sword, forming a solid wall of steel, not letting any monster pass. Only then did she understand. He's trying to make my battle easier. The fire oval within her burned more fiercely than ever, banishing all fatigue and despair. That's right, I can't complain anymore. I can't let him down. Aya continuously launched larger and more powerful fireballs forward. A series of system notification panels appeared, signaling her continuous leveling up. Aya's fireballs grew stronger and stronger, even after using a lot of mana for a long time. She was shocked to realize my mana isn't running out. During the fight, Rei was silently observing Aya's condition. As expected, Ichino's is well suited for prolonged battles. Her mana pool is her greatest weapon. As soon as the last monster was defeated, a brilliant yellow system screen appeared right in front of Aya. Looking at the words on it, she widened her eyes in surprise. The system announced that the furnace had been unlocked, marking a huge leap forward for Aya. Very quickly, the two of them reached the boss room of the Crystal Cave, a level 50 giant slime. Rei immediately rushed forward to launch a preemptive strike. He didn't forget to signal his teammate. Ichino's, use the skill you just unlocked. She quickly responded, okay. Aya held her hands out in front of her, focusing all the mana coursing through her body to unleash the furnace. A giant pillar of fire suddenly erupted, enveloping her like a magnificent robe. Even Aya was surprised by the power she had just released. She clenched her fist in determination. Is this my power? Then Aya gathered her strength to deploy her ability. Rei looked at her with proud eyes. Furnace is a skill that increases the attack power of techniques by consuming a large amount of mana. It's a perfect fit for her skill set. When the energy was compressed to its limit, I released it all, creating a destructive flame that shot straight towards the boss. Its terrifying destructive power made even Rei marvel, just as I thought. No, it's even more than I thought. Her massive mana pool combined with the furnace with this power. Ichino's Aya will become the Red King. After defeating the boss, Rei went over to praise her. Good job. On her sweat-drenched face, Aya gave a faint, happy smile. The fatigue seemed to have vanished completely. Even I was surprised. She turned to give him a bright smile and her sincerest thanks. It's all thanks to you, Rei-san. And so, the two's conquest of the B-rank dungeon ended with results that exceeded expectations. On the way back, Aya couldn't hide her joy. We've met the conditions to take the rank promotion test, Rei also replied happily. That's right. His gaze drifted into the distance, becoming more determined than ever. The promotion test is finally here. I have to pass at all cost. On the day of the rank promotion test, Vina announced in a loud voice, first, we will measure your combat abilities and pair you with someone to conduct a mock battle. At this moment, Rei and I were so tense they pressed their lips together. He thought to himself, the promotion test is finally here. He was extremely determined in his heart that he had to pass this test and become an rank mage. After hearing the announcement, the two of them walked down the hallway together. Rei turned his head and said, the test is right in front of us. I smiled encouragingly. Let's do our best, Rei-san. However, before Rei could finish his sentence, a figure blocked their path from afar. First is the combat ability test. That voice made Aya freeze with tension. Oh my. I didn't expect a useless good-for-nothing like you to participate in this exam. Maya, with her cronies behind her, sneered contemptuously. Ichino's. Now Aya timidly hesitated. Isoyama-san. Just then, Rei rushed to stand in front of her. Sorry, but she won't lose to someone who forces others to fight alone. His attitude immediately made Mayo frown in annoyance. Keep acting tough. She suddenly turned around and arrogantly continued. Instead of a talentless person like Ichino's, I have other members who are much stronger. With that, a girl appeared from behind Mayo, calmly observing the situation. She introduced her arrogantly, Aono Iori. She's someone you two could never win against. As soon as he heard this name, Rei's eyes widened and he muttered to himself. Aono, is that Aono Iori? Rei silently recalled. I heard that name in my past life. There was a time when she single-handedly conquered a high-difficulty dungeon. After that, her name became famous, Aono Iori. Rei bit his lip, looking at his opponent tensely and telling himself, at this point in time, her ability must be around a rank mage level. Now Iori was standing in front of him. She rested her chin on her hand and said in a low voice, young man, you look interesting. This statement immediately made Rei's face flush with embarrassment. At this moment, I turned to him and asked worriedly, Rei-san, is something wrong? Hearing this name, Iori glanced over and muttered, Rei-a, Kurosaki Rei. Then she opened her mouth to continue. The Violet King, I heard that Kurosaki Kai was defeated by someone. With that, Iori playfully pointed at his chest. It was you, wasn't it? Faced with her guess, Rei thought nervously, she knows that much. Beside him, Aya was so shocked her mouth hung open. Is that true, Rei-san? At this moment, Iori turned her back and added, but you can't beat me. She walked away nonchalantly while waving her hand dismissively. There's a rumor spreading about the Violet King. Perhaps he can't compare to me. Rei gritted his teeth and muttered that name again in his mind, Aono Iori. A little later, at the training ground of the Mage Association headquarters, The person in charge pointed to the side seriously now. We will proceed to test your combat skills using this artificial golem. A gleaming golem appeared before them. He continued to introduce it. This golem is covered with a special type of rock, harder than regular stone. Attack it with all your might. Now the person in charge called out in a loud voice, Kurosaki Rei, please step forward. At this moment, the golem began to activate, its eye glowing a mysterious yellow. Opposite it, Rei also raised his hand to create a magic spell to deal with it. The two guys behind him saw this and sneered. Seriously? He's using a fire attribute magic to deal with a metal golem. The guy next to him curled his lip in contempt. Is he an idiot? At this moment, Rei ran forward quickly. He thought to himself, I know a normal attack can't break it. The golem moved and launched a punch, but Rei managed to duck in time to dodge. The fire magic in his hand grew larger and larger. If that's the case finally, Rei threw the blazing fireball with all his might at the golem, flame lance. At this moment, the golem stood motionless, golden electric sparks flashing on its head as its entire body shook violently. Then, in the next moment, it fell heavily to the ground, creating a thunderous explosion. The person in charge shouted in astonishment, the golem has been destroyed. After hearing this, the two who had just been mocking him turned pale. The crowd roared. He destroyed it in one blow. He's a two-color mage, right? Iori, who had witnessed everything, couldn't help but praise. He fused red and blue mana to increase his firepower, not bad. As for Rei, he was silently looking at the dusty scene in front of him. At the same time, in another place, the mana measurement test. The person in charge said, please place your hand on this crystal to measure your mana. Mayo glanced over contemptuously and snorted coldly. She's just embarrassing herself. Now Aya slowly brought her hand closer to the crystal. The moment she touched it, a fierce flame erupted, instantly enveloping Aya's entire body. The crowd witnessing the scene was terrified. Mayo's eyes widened as she shouted, what? Other students exclaimed, amazing, who is she? At this moment, Mayo bit her hand and muttered, she must be cheating. In a flash, it was the final mock battle test. The person in charge stood on the podium and announced, now, we will hold a mock battle test. He held a paper and read each name one by one. First match, Ichino's Aya, Isoyama Mayo. Now Aya gently clutched her chest and took a breath to gather herself. In contrast, Mayo smirked sinisterly. She thought to herself, I will expose your lies. A moment later, the person in charge shouted loudly, begin. With that, Mayo quickly launched her first move, Ice Needle. Sharp blocks of ice like swords shot straight towards Aya opposite her. Aya didn't back down an inch, but powerfully raised her hand to create a fireball, to block in front of her. Then she let out a loud shout and threw it, dyeing the entire arena a brilliant red. The flame immediately crashed into the approaching block of ice. Finally, a huge explosion echoed, shaking the surrounding air. The fire blazed fiercely, swallowing the ice in a sea of brilliant red. Mayo covered her face, unable to believe her eyes. I can't believe Ichino's has a skill with such great firepower. She looked at Aya and wondered, what's going on? Now it was her turn. Aya bent down to gather a fireball. Fireball. The blinding light in front of her made Mayo grimace. With that, Aya threw it straight at her opponent without a moment's hesitation. Take this. However, Mayo also quickly created a layer of armor. Don't underestimate me. Mana barrier. In her heart, Mayo was smug. What an idiot. Her attack is very simple. I'll wait for her to finish attacking, and then counter. The flames, like bright shining blades, madly stabbed at the ice armor in front. Just then, Mayo suddenly felt something was wrong. Wait, she shouted in confusion. Why? Why isn't her attack stopping? While everyone around was gaping, Rei was extremely calm. He thought that once Ichino's, who possessed a massive mana pool, continuously attacked. Aya focused all her attention on the fireball in her hand. The flames continued to strike the armor without any sign of stopping. A mana barrier can't stop her. Just then, a shattering sound echoed. Mayo was so horrified her eyes widened. The massive explosion shattered the floor, sending pieces of rock flying violently, forcing her to flee. Then a large rock suddenly fell on Mayo's head. Seeing this, I couldn't help but be horrified as well. Her eyes had rolled back into her head, but she still muttered that Ichino's is impossible. It's all a lie. At this moment, the person in charge shouted, that's enough. He slowly announced the result. The winner was Ichino's Aya. Now Rei came over to praise her. Good job. You fought well. Aya smiled shyly. I can't believe it myself. Then she made a gesture of encouragement. Good luck. Rei had already sensed the figure behind him. His face immediately turned cold. Yeah. The two stood opposite each other, so tense they didn't blink. The person in charge spoke. Kurosaki Rei, Aono Iori, please step up. At this moment, Iori crossed her arms and sneered. So my opponent in the final mock battle is you. Facing her opponent's serious gaze, she teased, this is going to be fun. Then suddenly, Iori pointed forward. By the way, you must have your own reason for participating in this exam, right? Seeing Rei's confused expression, she continued. It feels like you're more prepared than the other candidates. I'm curious. Rei clenched his hand and muttered. I have something I must do at all cost. His eyes, sharp and determined, declared. So I can't stop here. This statement immediately made Iori silent for a moment. After a while, she hesitated slightly. But then Iori swung her hand, gathering an energy orb, and emphasized, I'm very strong, you know? However, Rei just calmly drew his sword. Of course, I know, but I will win. Hearing that, Iori sighed. You really are interesting. A few minutes later, the person in charge shouted, the match begins. With that, Iori launched a series of blazing blue fire swords. I'll go first. They quickly rushed forward, aiming straight for the opponent. Now, Rei bent down and used his sword with quick, sharp movements to deflect them all. He gritted his teeth and thought. Mana transmutation, it's a rare skill that allows the user to freely manipulate their mana. A flash of light from the attack reflected on Rei's face, making his expression glow with a cold and fierce intensity. Then a sword suddenly stabbed down from above, but Rei managed to jump away in time. This scene immediately made Iori laugh. You dodge well. Finally, Rei shot forward like a flash. Now it's my turn. Iori, as if familiar with the situation, sighed in boredom and continued to attack. Oh dear, I won't let you have your way. Just as Rei was about to charge, a layer of armor suddenly appeared in front of him. Mana barrier. Iori lowered her eyes, staring intently at her opponent's action. As soon as Rei swept his sword, she quickly jumped up. Iori's movement was predicted by him. Rei reached his hand back and began to gather his power. He gathered all his strength and shouted, now. A whirlwind of red and blue mana shot straight forward. Flame lance. Now in midair, Iori also strengthened her armor. Mana transmutation. The scene quickly became extremely tense. Iori's armor managed to block all of his mana and push it back. At this moment, she landed gently. That was a close one. Rei tensely assessed the situation. Her defense is flawless. She really is strong. On the side, I'd also clutched her chest in worry and muttered, Rei-san. A moment later, the match continued. Iori lowered her voice and launched her next attack. My next move. A series of light flashes flew wildly in the air. She asked excitedly, what will you do? They slammed down hard, shattering the ground into small pieces. But Rei still managed to dodge with complete agility. Rei snorted coldly. This is getting annoying. Witnessing his action, Iori was very pleased. You think you can win just by running around? Watch this. Immediately after, she shouted, causing all the energy beams to aim straight at Rei, cornering him. He quickly glanced back to assess the situation behind him. Finally, without a moment's hesitation, Rei crashed straight into the energy source, shattering it in midair. Supreme physical enhancement. His eyes flashed with an imposing and powerful electric fire. At this sight, Iori was a little surprised and stood frozen. Physical enhancement. Immediately after, she curled her lips into a sinister smile. Iori spoke slowly. This is the first time I've seen someone with 3 mana colors. Then, unexpectedly, her entire body was immediately covered in bright yellow electric fire. But I can also use that physical enhancement skill. Finally, a giant energy blade appeared behind Iori. She declared nonchalantly, now then, let's end this. With that, Iori shot off, her figure disappearing from sight. While Rei was still standing there, she had already appeared behind him, tightly gripping the blade. The atmosphere between the two was extremely tense, the deafening sounds of clashing blades echoing endlessly. Rei was so tense that sweat poured down his face as he thought, she's so fast. Her attack speed forced Rei to retreat. However, just as Iori was about to deliver the final blow, he managed to jump away in time to dodge. He frowned to himself. Such overwhelming power, in that case. Thinking this, Rei immediately bent down and rushed straight towards his opponent. Then, without a word, he tightly gripped Iori's wrist. She curled her lips and coldly pushed him away. How shallow, even if you catch my hand. However, at this moment, Iori's face suddenly darkened. The system announced, Supreme Physical Enhancement has been stolen. Iori was stunned and stammered, my strength is gone. Now Rei quickly seized the opportunity to rush forward and take the initiative. He used a powerful blow to push her aside. Iori was so surprised that her face became frantic. Her whole body gradually lost its balance. So you were hiding. Finally, just as she finished speaking, Iori's body gradually collapsed to the ground. Your trump card. Now the shout of the person in charge rang out. The winner is Kurosaki Rei. A long time later, in the infirmary, Iori lay on the bed and groggily opened her eyes. Rei quickly noticed and called out, you're finally awake. At this moment, she leaned against the headboard and said gently, I lost that match for sure. I didn't expect you to be so strong. Then Iori smiled and glanced at him. So, you probably didn't come here just to brag about your promotion, right? However, Rei paid no attention to this. He seriously crossed his arms and confronted her. Allow me to be direct. Do you want to join our team? His attitude immediately made her confused. Huh? I had tilted her head and nodded along with Rei's every word. You see, based on the results of the mock battle, you've also been promoted to a rank, Aono-san. To conquer high-difficulty dungeons, we need your strength, Aono-san. At this point, he slowed down, However, in this situation, Iori suddenly burst into cheerful laughter. Then she gently raised her hand to wipe away a tear. You really are interesting. Okay. Now Iori's cheeks were flushed as she nodded in agreement. If I follow you, it will be even more interesting. The two of them happily shook hands in cooperation. I'll be counting on you. Then suddenly, a loud noise echoed, shaking the entire building. I shouted in alarm, an earthquake. Rei's eyes widened as he looked up to assess the situation. This is. However, as soon as he saw the scene in front of him, his eyes immediately darkened. Could it be? A tall body was chained up, part by part. Finally, just a little more. I carefully felt the disturbance in the air and quietly concluded, it stopped. But in Rei's mind, there wasn't much optimism. That earthquake just now. He unconsciously let his thoughts drift to the past. In my past life, earthquakes happened a lot before the Ikebukuro dungeon collapsed. But the reality is that everyone's time is running out. The more Rei calculated, the more his anxiety grew. This era still doesn't know the difficulty of the dungeon, but we have no other choice. Finally, he decided to speak up and negotiate. I have something to tell you too. After digesting the information, I was somewhat panicked. Conquer the Ikebukuro dungeon. She glanced at the couple opposite her and hesitantly presented her thoughts. That's the most difficult dungeon in the Japanese peninsula, right? And we're going to conquer it with just 3 people. Iori astutely asked directly to the point. You're suggesting this because of the earthquake just now, right? Rei bowed his head and frankly admitted, yes, I have a bad feeling about this. Lately, there have been many reports of unusual monsters appearing. He paused for a moment and then voiced a half-true, half-false speculation. It's like the prelude to a turning point. Iori rested her chin on her hand and replied indifferently, I'm fine with whatever. After all, it's an interesting place. Seeing her teammate agree, I expressed her determination. I understand. I'll try not to be a burden. Rei's facial muscles relaxed into a relieved smile. Thank you, both of you. Next, he clenched his fist and declared briefly, all right, let's move out. The next day, Rei was at the center early to prepare. Hinata-san, we have a favor to ask. He pushed the application form onto the table and decisively stated, we plan to conquer the Ikebukuro dungeon. Soon enough, the group was at the entrance of the Ikebukuro dungeon. Iori rubbed her chin and said playfully, a super hard dungeon with a recommended level over 70. How exciting. I wasn't as confident as her, so she said weakly, if possible. It would be better if we cooperated with other mages. Rei put on a look of willingness but lack of ability. We can't help it. They don't have any rank mages available immediately. He looked into the void and said with a sigh, it would be great if Oikawa were here. Iori chimed in at the right moment. That person? Rei's memory suddenly returned for a moment. Before I regressed. Oikawa was known as the top in Japan. That person would be a great asset at a time like this. He involuntarily tilted his head to the side and pressed his lips together tightly. If the dungeon collapses again, the inverted castle was still a gentle blue, but in Rei's heart, he remembered an old acquaintance. He, the god of time and space, Kronos, will appear. He frowned tightly, his eyes burning with a fiery determination. I have to stop that from happening. Rei quickly gathered his thoughts and signaled his teammates on both sides. Let's go, Ichino-san. Aono-san. But Iori suddenly reached out her hand to stop him. Wait, I have something to say. She tilted her head and made a suggestion she had been thinking about for a long time. Can you call me by my first name? Misunderstanding Rei's silence, Iori carefully explained. Calling me by my last name feels too formal. Immediately after, I'd also chimed in, me too. She smiled brightly and gave him a fatal reason. We're friends now, after all. Rei thought for a moment, and then smiled in agreement. You two are right. He was very flexible and immediately corrected himself. Aye, Iori. Let's conquer the Ikebukuro dungeon together. As soon as they stepped through the teleportation gate, the 3 of them were hit by a gloomy aura. Rei's eyes suddenly flickered, fixed on a direction not far away. He stared intently at the skeleton demon wandering ahead. It easily sniffed out their presence and turned back to snarl at them immediately. A little tension rose in Rei's heart. It's a boss from other dungeons. Yet it suddenly appeared here with a level over 70. But he still spoke on cue. Let's fight, Aya. Iori. Both girls responded in unison without planning. Okay, I'm on it. They charged towards the skeleton demon one after another in an arrow formation. Rei prepared magic in his hand while his brain mapped out the moves. We'll destroy its mana barrier first. When the distance was close enough, he decisively threw a flame lance at it. But the problem was that the skeleton demon's barrier was quite thick. This made Rei come up with another plan. A single attack is not enough to destroy it. However, He sensed every small change and then suddenly shouted, "Now." On command, Yori jumped high with her scythe, while Aya opened a blazing hot flame to support her. Two streams of pressure simultaneously slammed into the hard barrier. As expected, Rei's plan succeeded in shattering the skeleton demon's protection. The time was right, so Rei immediately rushed up to attack from behind. He decisively swept his blade, cutting it into two even halves. The blue magic stone from the skeleton demon fell, marking the end of this action. Aya couldn't contain her excitement and cheered, "Rei-san, we did it." He walked towards the two of them, not stingy with his praise. "You two timed your attacks perfectly." Iori, as always, paid attention to unusual details. "I've been wondering about this since our battle. How can you use so many skills?" Rei was caught off guard by the sudden question and was stunned. Finally, he decided to reveal the secret. "I have something called skill steal." Iori had a confused expression. "Skill steal?" Rei affirmed briefly, "Yes." To make it easier to understand, he even demonstrated on the spot just by touching. "I can steal someone else's skill." Iori remembered their past duel, and it dawned on her. "So that's what happened then." Rei smiled and added, "I've already returned the skill to you, Iori." She quickly sighed in relief. "Thanks." Aya listened to all of it silently and twisted in her heart. Steal. He can do that. I was already surprised when he talked about the plan to conquer the Ikebukuro dungeon. Just then, Rei urged them on. "Anyway, let's move forward." But Aya was still lost in her own thoughts. "As long as Rei-san is here, we'll be fine." She looked at the back in front of her and silently set a goal. "I can't become a burden." Thanks to their excellent teamwork, the group sent a series of monsters to meet their maker. Even giant goblins couldn't escape Iori's scythe. Aya was much more proactive in battle this time. After a while of hard work, they finally reached their destination. "Good. The boss room is right ahead." After hearing Rei speak, Aya hesitantly expressed herself. "The rumbling of the ground is getting louder. I know the boss monster is very strong, but will we really be okay?" He immediately gave her a dose of reassurance. "We've leveled up on the way here. We can do it." Aya, resonated, immediately regained her spirits. "You're right." She strode along with her teammates and continued to psych herself up. It's true that Rei-san has gotten stronger after every battle. Yori is also used to fighting. Aya continued to repeat the mantra in her head. "At least I have to support them." But before she got far, a rumbling sound echoed from behind her. The two, Rei and Yori, who were walking ahead, were startled and turned around by reflex. Aya, a step behind, stood there stunned as the tentacle got closer. It wasn't until she was lifted high into the air that she reacted. Rei also ran after her, calling her name, Aya. The death god boss, having succeeded in its sneak attack, was now waving its soft legs tauntingly. As soon as he saw its appearance clearly, his mind went blank. The boss can't escape from the deepest room. Why? A familiar smile from Kronos flashed in Rei's mind. Yori's voice at that moment pulled him back to reality. "Do you see how bad this situation is?" Rei answered anxiously. "Yes, the situation is very critical. But even so, we must save Aya at all cost." In another dark and distant place, Kronos was letting out a barbaric laugh. The monsters have been released. Even though he was chained up, he still seemed pleased with his achievement. "This is the limit of what I can do with my current power. This will do." Kronos placed all his faith in the death god in the Ikebukuro dungeon now. Become the first victim of the grand opening. Back to the intense battle zone, Rei was anxiously shouting, "Aya, are you okay?" From within the space created by the death god's tentacles, a familiar stream of light emerged. Aya struggled towards the gap and weakly confirmed, "Yeah, I'm still okay." Getting herself into this situation, she couldn't help but blame herself. "Even though I tried to block it, I still couldn't escape. I don't want to be a burden to them." Rei observed the situation and calculated extremely quickly. So she's been continuously casting a mana barrier. But no matter how abundant Aya's mana is, there's a limit. An intense conflict tore through his mind. "I want to use Absol Flame, but Aya might get caught in it. I have to find a way to save her." Finally, Rei decided to use a feint tactic. "Yori, I'll try to attract its tentacles. In the meantime, you try to save Aya." She gripped her scythe tightly and smirked. "It's not like I have any other choice." After the signal "let's go," the two quickly deployed their counterattack formation. The death god, sensing danger, swung its tentacles through the air towards them. Rei flexibly jumped up, dodging the blow by a hair's breadth. He kept reminding himself, "A normal attack has this much power. I can't take a direct hit." But as soon as Rei's feet touched the ground, a suspicious crack suddenly appeared behind him. In the blink of an eye, another of the death god's tentacles had broken through the ground, stunning him. It came up from my blind spot. Aya, trapped high above with an unrestricted view, immediately shouted, "Rei-san." He didn't hesitate to swing his arm and throw out a mana hand for a temporary defense. The enlarged mana hand caught the full force of the blow from the death god just in time. Rei took the opportunity to increase the distance, his heart still pounding. That was a close call. But Once he was out of the danger zone, a meaningful smile appeared on his face. As expected, Iori, who had been waiting for this chance, found an opening to enter the stage. That moment of inattention is enough for me. She excitedly swung her scythe, planning to make some octopus sashimi. Here I come. Iori had been holding back on this guy for a long time, so she used all her strength in this strike. However, the result left Rei stunned. Even she herself began to doubt her existence. What? The most unwanted answer popped into Iori's head, an enhancement skill. She dejectedly left her original attack position. Rei anxiously jumped down to ask, Iori, are you okay? She didn't take her eyes off the death god as she replied decisively, yeah, I'm fine. He waited for her to stabilize before voicing his suspicion. By the way, do you find something strange? Iori understood and replied briefly, I do. Rei locked his gaze on the boss while his mind was filled with questions. Tentacle monsters usually have poor defense. I've never heard of one with defensive abilities. It even crawled out of the boss room. Something is very strange. All these anomalies made him unable to help, but think of Kronos. Before they could find an optimal solution, the death god once again released its tentacles. Damn it, we don't even have time to think. Both Rei and Iori were passively drawn into the exhausting battle. Aya, on the other hand, was lost in self-condemnation. It's all my fault. I always rely on Rei-san. Because just recently, she was happily thinking, he makes my battles easier. As long as Rei-san is here, we'll be fine. I'm the passive. I pounded on the solid prison and screamed silently, I have to do something. I have to do something. At the same time, Iori was still diligently dealing with the soft legs that the death god was throwing out. Although she kept a smile on her face, she had to admit, this is bad. Even Rei's mind understood the dire circumstances. Our mana is depleted from fighting all this time. He looked towards Aya and helplessly calculated, if only our mana was at its peak. Thinking this, Rei's eyes suddenly lit up. That's right, if it's that skill. He didn't hesitate anymore and shouted, Aya, cast mana fusion on us. She was unexpectedly pulled out of her negative emotions and hesitated for a moment. Even Iori thought this plan was not very feasible. Isn't that a useless skill because it consumes a large amount of mana? Rei, while perfunctorily dealing with the death god, silently searched his memories. It's true that in the past life, mana fusion was also considered a useless skill. But thanks to one mage, its value was completely reversed. The one who proved that was. A completely confident figure appeared in Rei's mind. Aya, she was the one who did it in my past life. The person he trusted was now busy doubting. Mana fusion. I've never used that skill because I thought it was useless. Nevertheless, I quickly corrected that mindset. But if Rei-san said so, then I'll trust him. She silently made up her mind and acted decisively. Besides, I want to mana fusion help him. The power from Aya split into halves for both Rei and Iori. She couldn't believe it and voiced her question. What? My mana is being restored. Rei, having past experience, was outwardly calm. Mana fusion has the effect of sharing the user's mana. It's a skill that only mages with a huge amount of mana can master. Even so, he didn't dare to relax yet. But even though Aya was silently rejoicing, great, with this skill, I can share my mana with them. And then she immediately realized, but this much isn't enough. With her intelligence, I easily grasped the situation. I see. It's because I'm casting a mana barrier. She quickly expressed a determination for the first time in her life. If that's the case, with that, I allowed the tentacles to get closer to her. This action startled Rei and Iori. Rei's mind fell into turmoil. She's canceling the mana barrier? As if to confirm his thought, Aya was wrapped up like a rice cake. In that hair's breadth moment, she still persistently released the furnace. Two waves of powerful mana flowed into the bodies of both Iori and Rei. He gradually understood his teammate's intention. She's increasing her skill's firepower by using the furnace. Rei unconsciously called out her name, Aya. She reached out her hand and gave a weak smile. Rei-san, Iori-san, I'll leave the rest to you too. After handing it over, Aya's entire body sank into endless darkness. With no other choice, Rei signaled to the other one, Iori. After her the two of them rushed towards the death god at top speed. Iori curled her lips and made a promise. If she's that determined, then I have no other choice. Of course, Rei also expressed his gratitude afterwards. Thank you, Aya. Thanks to you, thank you. The sole target of the two was the disgusting mouth of the boss. Having been replenished with magic, they attacked much more easily this time. Rei swung his sword, cutting through layers of tentacles and shouting, we can open a path now. This is the end. Please comment Rei below if you want next part.